everyone, and welcome to this video compilation on the power of a growth mindset. As you may know, I ask all of my podcast guests to share how they get in the growth zone and maintain a growth mindset. The concept of a growth mindset has been gaining a lot of attention lately, and for good reason. It has the potential to completely change the way we approach challenges and setbacks in our lives and work. For those who may be unfamiliar, a growth mindset is the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed and improved through effort and dedication. On the other hand, a fixed mindset is the belief that abilities and intelligence are set and cannot be changed. In this video, we'll be showcasing different perspectives on the growth mindset from successful individuals and experts in various areas. Through their inspiring stories and wisdom, we hope to demonstrate the impact that a growth mindset can have on one's personal and professional life. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's dive into the world of growth mindsets. And that is, how do you remain in the growth zone? What do you do to expand and deepen your growth mindset?
That's a very difficult question. I think keep learning, keep studying, always trying to see other organization performance. That's what I do on the daily basis. Even through newspaper, magazine, scientific journals, books, of course, some websites, specific websites like dvr.com, ASQ, AFQA, and Baldrige. But it's all about to be humble enough to always know that so much information right there, is so much regarding the expectation of the customers, the employees, and in order to give back to them your best is one of the critical, in my opinion, one of the most important part, right? Get back to the organization. And I always feel the responsibility to give back to society. In my case, I've been teaching for almost 20 years in different programs. And when with my students, MBA students, I always say, believe in the quality journey, in the quality field, because we will help you to understand how single process can add value to your main KPI and then make it main KPI to your value proposition. Stick to your value proposition and you will see better performance.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone? In other words, what do you do to deepen your own growth mindset?
Well, I think I'm always asking myself, two questions. What am I doing now? How can I do it better? And that becomes ingrained in you as an excellence professional, but it's also became kind of ingrained in me when I was young. In my pursuit in sport, in my pursuit of academics, and then of course in business. It's just the way that I tick, I suppose. And I have had a burning desire to make the world a better place. And I think that this fits in beautifully with that. Because I think if you can help improve the performance of organizations, that this will in turn buoy up a local economy, help facilitate trade, and all of this good work trickles into the resident quality of life. And so that is another important aspect, I think, to what I've always wanted to do over time is pay it forward, so that others reap the benefits, whether it's professionals learning more about this and working with it, or it's organizations applying it and getting the desired results. And I think we're getting more of a chance to do this sort of work too, because we're working with a foundation that does nation building projects, and they've using the toolkit to train local professionals, because this is the best way to help spread what we do, you know, is to train the local professionals, enable them to use the turnkey toolkit with the organizations in their community, and they become of this part of this excellence charge, making a real difference, you know, where they are. And so we've developed that at Organizational Excellence Specialists. We've got a wonderful teams, you know, when you think about the licensed professionals, the research professionals, and the newsletter professionals, it's quite a community.
It is.
That all is working towards this, you know, a similar end. And you populate the world with enough people with a skill set, and you can make a real difference at home, and as we do, of course, abroad when we get a chance to work in other countries. So I'm particularly pleased with where this is at right now. It's really been a lifelong dream of mine to not only work in this area, enjoy the work, a career in this area, but, you know, since I started Organizational Excellence Specialists back in 2010, this is exactly what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted to be in a position where we could really just unleash this, and that dream is starting to come true.
Well, I know you've certainly made a difference, and it's been very intriguing to see over the past 10 years that I've been involved, the change and the growth that's happened in your company and organization and community, as you mentioned. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see the knowledge being spread across the world and within many different organizations. So congratulations to you for taking on this journey and dedicating a lot of your time and efforts to that.
Well, thank you. And it's you know, it's been a passion of mine. So it's something that I've thoroughly enjoyed doing. And as I ease into, you know, retirement, I know it's something that I'll be able to pass along to others, because we've developed so many good professionals that are able to do this work, and we've still got much more to do. But I see it continuing on in terms of, you know, what's been started here over the last 10 years, and what builds on the good work that the excellence community around the world has been doing. I think that you know, we're all in this together. I'm a big fan of working collaboratively with others wherever we can, and really proud of what we've been able to accomplish at Organizational Excellence Specialists and the beautiful community that we've developed. Really proud of that.
How do you remain in the growth zone? So in other words, what do you do to deepen your growth mindset?
Well, I like to think that I'm still in the growth mode, honestly. I try not to use the word retired, by the way. You know, to me, I've changed careers, kind of thing. I haven't been working for a living for over 10 years now, okay? But I've been working. And that's what I tell people. So how do I get into the growth mode? Well, first of all, I like to give back. So I've been volunteering. I've been volunteering in a number of community organizations. I got really involved with the Family and Children's Services Agency here in our community, because they do tremendously important work, especially, you know, for youth and care and the issues within our community. So I became very involved there as the chair of the board. And I know I did bring some of my learning, what we've talked about, by the way, to the executive director and others. But as a board chair, I was always cognizant of the fact that I'm the board chair. It's up to you to figure out, you have to do it. So that was one thing. And then when I left the board last year, the group wanted to do what I think is really vitally important work, and that's how to build success in education for youth and care. So they put together a working party and asked me if I would facilitate it. So that's what I've been doing, facilitating this working group of professionals from the agency and faculty from Queen's University and several youth and care to try to figure ways in which this agency or even the province can increase the success rate in education for youth in care. Now, the connection to that, by the way, is, you know, St. Lawrence College, right, where it was. So I tried to do that, you know, in terms of my growth mode. But the other piece that I've done is I've gone back to my early beginnings, and I was very involved when university years and stuff in music, singing groups. So I about 5 or 6 years ago, I decided to pick up the guitar again and start playing and start singing. And a couple of friends of ours, we've done some, you know, charity fundraising things around the area. And once a week I go to, now what's God forbid, it's called a senior center, but I go to the senior center. And I just went there yesterday for 2 hours, and there was a bunch of people in the room, all wearing masks, by the way, because we're still into a mask mandate, but we were jamming. So the reason I'm telling you that is I think it's, everybody's different, but I think you can't lose sense of the nature of inquiry. You got to have a curious mind. And if you have a curious mind, then I think your growth is exponential, you know, exponential. It'll just keep going on. So ask me in 5 years, I don't know, we'll see. You know, so.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone? What do you do to deepen your own growth mindset?
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny you say that, because for me, you know, and I love the growth mindset work from Carol Dweck. Vertical mindset, to me, is like beyond growth mindset. So I'm going to tweak your question just a little, because for me, my growth mindset exists in how do I continue to deepen my vertical mindset? Because vertical mindset it includes growth mindset. And then it's also about that interconnectedness with others. And it's about having a sense of meaning and purpose. So there's a few layers to it. So to answer your question now in that context, what I do to deepen that is I actually continue to check in on those 3 things every day. How am I growing? What am I learning? You know, how am I connecting with others? And how am I doing in terms of serving others? So for me, it's the clients that I support, the organizations, my coaching clients as an executive coach. And then it's also about, am I living my purpose today? Which for me, my purpose is very much about helping to create organizations where people can thrive, right? And those healthy workplaces. So I continue to check in on those things and on a daily basis. And where I feel I'm faltering in one, you know, on any given day, it just informs me of, okay, what am I learning for the next day? And so that for me is always the question, because I don't think we can guarantee anything in this life except that we will always continue to learn something.
How do you remain in a growth zone, in a growth mindset zone?
It takes a lot of effort to remain in the growth mind, or to be in a growth mindset zone. I've read the book of Carol Dweck, which talks about the mindset, the new psychology of success. And I think it's really about creating or living in a space where you can allow yourself also to learn new things, to network, to experiment, and don't be afraid of trying always new things, and at least admit to yourself that there's a lot of things in the world that you still need to learn, and have that humbleness to learn from others. And I think putting yourself in a place where you're connected with people, we use the word like-minded people. I think it's important, but I think it's also important to be with people who have different knowledge, different expertise, and learn from that. It opens opportunities to learn new things and to do new things. And I think this is very important. Other element is also really to take on challenges. I think this is where we really learn how our potential and understand what we can do and what we cannot do. And we definitely need to work on the things or improve the things which we feel we have a certain weakness in, and keep making effort to develop ourselves. It takes really effort, it takes time. And that's where we say sometimes some people are in their comfort zone, growth mindset is really the opposite. If you let yourself be in this comfort zone, then you're not allowing yourself to keep growing. And you need to know new things and learn new things to grow. And I think one of the things which were hard a little bit for me to do is to accept criticism initially, constructive criticism. I think this is one of the things that help us really push ourselves a little bit forward every time. And I believe in the power of habits. And there is this rule of 21 days to get a new habit. And whenever you want to change something, you need to focus on it 25 days to get the new habit, and then it becomes part of you. And this is how you get the PDCA into what you do on a daily basis and improve your practices and change and keep improving. And I think one of the things which I need to learn more, I think, which is very healthy for to be in that growth mindset, is work-life balance. Which I think I have to give myself the advice of pursuing that a little bit more. And I think would like to maybe, Tracy, close with this saying, which is very close to my heart. It's about your attitude determines your altitude. And because it's reminded me of an athlete champion who really kept this as his motto, and he won his first championship at the age of 50. So major championship. So it's really about keep pushing ourselves forward, and believe in ourselves and have the confidence that we can keep improving.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone? So in other words, what do you do to deepen your growth mindset?
That's an excellent question. I've always considered myself a student and a learner. Even given the fact I spent a number of years in the federal government working on some, very exciting projects. The last 7 years as the executive director of the Institute. What I tell myself is, or what I do to remind myself is like, I still haven't really figured any of this out, right? And so I'm always looking for opportunities to hear thought leaders, right? So certainly staying connected to, what's going on in sort of the broader sort of CX world, both in the private and public domains. Connected to a big part of my role as executive director, obviously, is working with partner or similar like organizations, both here at home and abroad. So again, the opportunity to interact with organizations that provide me with different perspectives on the challenges they're facing, I find extremely valuable. I love learning, being just inquisitive, right? So even simple things like signing up for quick boot camps and kind of working through lessons, articles, videos, that sort of thing. One of the things that I'm very fortunate as executive director at the ICCS, Citizen First, we run webinars throughout the year. So we tend to bring in quite a few guest speakers. Again, I'm fortunate I've met, incredible folks, really bright folks to bring a lot of, incredible ideas to sort of our community. So I get to interact with that. Half the time I'm so distracted by what's being said in some of these webinars that I fail to realize I'm actually moderating and producing them. So again, it's just trying to stay on top, right? And the recognition, that it's an ever evolving field. I mean, I mentioned, the use, for example, of artificial intelligence. So we're working with a couple of Canadian-based companies, startups that are basically using AI for data analytics, right? Specifically with regard to client satisfaction. So again, the opportunity to learn, just this week, I participated in a panel. Actually, it's a series of meetings that we're having with some colleagues internationally from that we work closely with at the Civil Service College in Singapore, the Model Center in Dubai. And again, that opportunity to learn from what others are doing. I'm always amazed, right? Because again, the ICCS Citizen First is typically better known internationally, right? Because a lot of folks will kind of find us and are amazed by what we do and you know, and how we're structured. But to me, I'm always more interested in hearing, you know, what they're doing. And so again, you look to some of the organizations, you know, certainly our colleagues in Singapore, and how progressive they are in learning, right? And the pursuit of excellence within their public sector. It just it's fascinating. So those are just some of the ways. And again, like I said, I'm very fortunate by way of the role I have here at the ICCS to constantly be exposed to, you know, bright people, innovative ideas and thoughts. So that's typically how I like to stay aware of what's going on in this ever-changing world.
But how do you remain in that growth zone and deepen your own growth mindset?
As a policy, I make friends with young people. And I learn a lot from them. So that's one part of it, to keep me energized. I also look at trends in the market. And for example, currently, it's innovation, disruptive thinking, creative thinking. I use the tools taught by Bob King from Gold QPC in New Hampshire. We represent them also. They are so simple, but they bring the child out in you. Time permits, I'll give you an example later, if time permits. And I'm looking at the environment and Mother Earth as the final customer. The prerequisite for an external customer is internal customer satisfaction. The prerequisite for internal customer satisfaction is community satisfaction. You know, we have, India is full of many communities. The prerequisite for that is Mother Earth. And today we can see what Mother Earth is doing. She's angry finally. She's had a belly full. So you can't talk of quality without seeing the environmental impact. The air, the water, simple things.
So true.
And the soil. What are we doing to the soil? So how do I remain in that zone? How old do you think I am?
I'm not sure.
How old?
I don't know.
Well, I'm approaching 80.
So you have a lot of experience and a lot of growth has happened.
Yeah, I remain energized by being friendly with young people. If I go with my own age group, I feel I'm in an old age home. And not that that's, I don't mean to speak negatively about old age homes, but my own personal reaction is, oh, that's not for me. And I'd rather have a conversation with a younger person. And young people have such aspirations and good ideas. So it tickles your creative mind also. And the trick is keep the mind occupied.
Yeah.
So current thing is Mother Earth. And I'm talking to many evangelists around as to what can we do, quality and that. So I've coined a term, green quality and green excellence. And I'm working on that.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone? What do you do to deepen your growth mindset?
Interestingly, I talk about, I teach in the university for fun. It's like, and it's fun. I mean, I love working with young people. You know, the MBA program has a mix of fresh out of undergrad and some grizzled veterans and, you know, 2 or 3, you know, somewhere in between. And I love working with them, and I love the opportunity that they give me to learn and grow. But it's also paid professional development, because I have to keep ahead of the curve. I have to keep researching. I have to keep finding new peer-reviewed research. I have to keep finding new ways to, new tools and approaches. So that alone keeps me engaged and motivated to learn more and to keep ahead of my students, which makes me a better management consultant, because then I'm always coming in with fresh ideas as opposed to same old, same old.
Right.
So it improves both. And again, we talked earlier before we came on today about teaching and taking on initiatives that force you to grow and learn new things in order to do them. You taking on this podcast is a perfect example of you developing new skills and also, you know, the questions that you ask bring you new answers and new information and new ideas. But you need to prepare to go into these interviews, which I really appreciated the questions that you sent me in advance, which helped me prepare and made me think through what we could talk about today. So that I read vociferously, not so much books anymore, but I attend online workshops as often as I can to learn new ideas. I have subscriptions to a dozen management journals and professional, professional educational journals, but also I get newsletters and emails, and yeah, I guess a lot of e-newsletters from practitioners or practitioner organizations in every area that I claim expertise to or that I'd like to learn more about. And generally, I try to set a goal of learning something new or getting involved in something new every year. So this was a learning opportunity for me.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone yourself? In other words, what do you do to deepen your own growth mindset?
Well, I think if you work in this field, you're always hopefully growing all the time. And I say I'm privileged to work with some wonderful people. I mean, all the various projects that I'm engaged with, then all of the project teams are just so motivated to improve their organizations, and it's so rewarding seeing these project teams go on this learning journey. And so whenever they go on the learning journey, then I'm by their side going on that learning journey too. So always constantly learning, and yeah, really we just want more people to do benchmarking. And the more people that do benchmarking, then the more people are also willing to share and willing to help other organizations. It is a two-way street, and you know, we're a big world, and we should be, you know, trying to make the world you know, healthier and more sustainable world for the future for everybody. And I think benchmarking helps to do that.
Is how do you remain in the growth zone? What do you do to deepen your growth mindset?
To be very frank, I just keep reading. You know, I just keep reading because I believe in one thing: knowledge is wealth. Yeah. Now it's not about wealth. How much money do I earn? No, it's not that wealth. You know, it's all about the amount of information, right? So I read a lot. You know, the perspective has changed a lot since I have joined OEF. You know, the community, organizational excellence community, where you know, you get to read a lot of articles, lot of resources, try to meet out people and all of that. But again, it's more about trying to see how people are doing things in different industries. I think that's what is more important for every you know, individual, rather than just focusing on what you're doing. Widen your horizons. You know, just try to look what is happening in other industries. What can we bring from there to this industry? That's what will help us in the growth mindset aspect.
How do you remain in the growth zone? In other words, what do you do to deepen your own growth mindset?
I attend a lot of webinars. Just as people are listening to me, I'm listening to other webinars. Now that I'm partly retired, you know, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So that's why I enjoy doing this. I do a fair amount of coaching, and I call it knowledge transfer, of consulting firms, CPA firm advisory arms. And the reason that is because in the CPA world, the artificial intelligence and robotic process automation is going to replace the audit with a computer. They've got to move to advisory services. So if I can train them how to do like these rapid prototyping, then they can then deliver those services to their clients. And so in terms of my own growth, every time you interact with another party, you always learn something that you didn't know before, a new industry or the like. So.
How do you remain in the growth zone? What do you do to deepen your growth mindset?
Well, a lifetime of learning, I think, is the way to look at this. Two primary attributes for the leader of innovation are curiosity and courage. Innovators are always learning. They're always looking out there, they're always asking questions, but they're also willing to take risk. And they're willing to step on the unsteady ground. And so the big challenge is that as you start to be successful, you become more risk averse. You're less willing to take risk. So your courage diminishes. Also, you have less time to go out there searching and learning. So we have to force that. I have to force this. You know, taking time to step back and find space. And you know, one of the things that does that is different for all of us, but I find travel forces me to step back and find space, because I'm moving to a different environment, a different world, and I find that suddenly my head clears and I'm able to look at things much more objectively. One other thing that I've learned, and that is the importance of mental acuity. Now there's a word, acuity, A-C-U-I-T-Y. In other words, having a sharp mind. And the secret for that, believe it or not, is sleep. And there tends to be a tradition of bragging about, oh, I can manage on 4 hours sleep. Well, okay. But people who do that pay a price. And I'm a great believer in sleep. And this might sound weird, but I get some of my best ideas when I'm asleep. There was a great program years ago on public television, a British program about the history of mathematics. And I think it was episode 3 was about the French mathematicians. And Descartes was one of the famous French mathematicians. And he used to do all his creative work in the morning in bed when his head was clear. So a clear head, get your own space, and always be learning. That's my counsel there.
That's very good advice. And I think it lends well to the topic of innovation and just being able to open your mind to all these ideas and the creative process. Is how do you remain in the growth zone? In other words, what do you do to deepen your own growth mindset?
It's interesting. I mean, one has a lengthy career, and it's had all kinds of twists and turns. And I think the fact that I still just really enjoy my work on a daily basis is the main thing that keeps me in the growth zone. Because it keeps me sharp. Now, there are a couple of other things that I'll add is that professional development has to occur on a more or less continuous basis through a given year. And so all kinds of certificates and courses or even just sessions and webinars and whatnot. For example, the Catalyst Consulting Conference, which I found fantastic a few weeks ago, online, unfortunately, still these days, out of Toronto. But and indeed, I'm looking at one more certificate. I'm not done pieces of paper just yet, where I do want to do the ProSci change management certificate, because while I've been dealing with change management and OCM issues with clients for years and years and years, apart from the fact that I understand that a lot of the methodology is cold, I would like to get an expert from, say, a model like ProSci to actually sort of train me in a particular method like that. So, and that sort of thing keeps me in the growth zone. So my intention is sometime over the next few months to get that. And the other thing is that for 10 years now, I think I mentioned at the outset, I've been teaching in the MBA program at Royal Roads University, and it's a couple of times a year for about 10 weeks per course. It's essentially what amounts to the Management Consulting Essentials course for the MBA students, although nowadays there's actually some additional students coming in from additional streams. That teaching process also keeps me in the growth zone. It really does. It in some ways requires me to stay sharp on the latest information and ensure that the information that I'm providing is really still in place in practice. And so that activity is a really welcome addition to what I do. And I think without the work and without the teaching, for example, I mean, my life might be highly enjoyable, but I wouldn't necessarily be, in the growth zone anymore.
And that concludes our video on the power of a growth mindset. We hope that you've learned something new and been inspired by the stories and insights shared in this compilation. It's important to remember that adopting a growth mindset is a journey, and it takes time and effort to change our default way of thinking. But the benefits are worth it. A growth mindset can really help us to be more resilient in the face of challenges, to keep learning and growing, and reach our full potential. So as you go about your day, try to focus on what you can learn and how you can grow from each experience. Remember that your abilities and intelligence are not set in stone, and that with effort and dedication, you can reach new heights. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep a growth mindset and keep growing.